Welcome to Hiring Happy Humans, where we talk about all things HR with a variety of folks, from CEOs to community partners, sharing up-to-date trends, best practices, and our wild workplace stories. Each interview is designed to leave you with the knowledge to keep your sanity. I'm your host, Dawn Sipley, of Sipley the Best. Thanks for joining in, and let's jump into this week's episode. Welcome, everybody, to Hiring Happy Humans. Today, I have the honor of having Robert Fullerton here. We are just so excited to have him on our team here at Simply the Best. I'm a big believer in hiring what you hate or hiring what you're not good at. And Robert just keeps me all straight when it comes to our numbers and has been a real blessing in my business personally. So I wanted to bring him on because I feel like not all small business owners can read their P&L in a way that allows them to make strategic business decisions. And Robert has been working with me and my company to kind of help us do that type of stuff. So welcome, Robert. I'm just so excited to have you on here today.
Oh, thank you very much, Dawn. It's really an honor, and I'm glad that you're having me join this conversation. It's going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Robert, tell me a little bit about your company, Startup Management.
Okay, so Startup Management is a consulting business that helps small and medium-sized business owners not just start their businesses successfully, but run it successfully. So we work with the business owners, the numbers and the business and the strategy to get all of that properly aligned so you can generate profits, cash flow, and growth. So the focus is really getting the business started and built a point of sustainability.
That's just fantastic. What is one thing that you've noticed when working with small business owners that they just don't quite understand or maybe have a hard time admitting that they don't understand?
So a lot of small business owners don't have a clear sense of how business finances work. And they make the assumption that they can run their businesses by their gut. So a lot of times we start a business, we don't do proper due diligence. We're not clear on what our business model and strategy is going to be. We're not sure about how to organize the business, how to get it funded. But we're so excited about our business idea. We're passionate about what we want to do that we launch straight in. We use our savings or the money that grandma gave us and we invest in the business and then realize the hard way that things didn't work the way we expected. And that's why the failure rate of small businesses is so high. More than 50% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Wow.
And that's an SBA statistic that's well proven over time. And unfortunately, business owners don't know how little they know and how complex this thing can be. And we make unforced errors that put us into difficulty.
Yeah. So you really see the pre-planning kind of as part of the problem.
Yeah, it's the pre-planning, the due diligence, and the right structure.
Okay.
So part of what I do in startup management for small business owners from the very inception is make sure that they structure their businesses properly. And sometimes business owners get advice like, form an S corporation. S corporations are the best things in the, and that's not necessarily true. There are limitations. There are good reasons for having an S corporation, but there are also good reasons for not having one. And sometimes the corporate structure can get you into difficulty, not just with the IRS, but with the way you fund your business as well. So part of my conversation with startup business owners is not just on the fundamentals of your business model and strategy, but it's also on the reasons why we choose an S corporation as opposed to an LLC and that sort of stuff. So it's that initial getting things right that's so important, because one of the things that I've learned about business is that you don't get do-overs. Mistakes cost money. And very often you make a mistake and you can't recover because there's no starting all over and getting it right. So
right. Well, I know when I came to you, it was through an exit with my previous CPA, and I thought that I was getting some solid advice there because of some credentialing, but then I realized that we might have kind of missed a couple of boats. And I was speaking with you and also Brian Lucas with the Good Books. Just explain to me, because a lot of people don't understand. I just had a meeting this morning with my pastor, and he was like, the difference between what your accountant does, what a fractional CFO would do, what a CPA would do. I mean, money's money, right? Like I'm making the money, I'm paying the government, I'm paying, my taxes and myself. Like, how do we know what we need as small business owners? Because one thing I have learned is, boy, vendors come out of the woodworks when they learn that you started your own business, and everybody's selling the best thing at the best price, but it's kind of hard to know what you really do need. How do we identify what that is, between those three roles?
Right. So that's a really, really good question. And it's a question that every business owner should ask themselves, because not all advisors understand the full range of issues that a small business and even a large business would face. So the three different things would be your bookkeeping and accounting. And so you need a good bookkeeper. You need someone who can do your taxes for you. And most CPAs in practice, that's their focus.
Right.
And then you need a good business advisor, a good financial advisor, a good CFO. So some CPAs have CFO experience, CFO being Chief Financial Officer. That's what the CFO is, the person who actually leads the financial strategy and discipline of the business. And all large businesses have CFOs, and these are expensive resources. But
I hire them often.
Huh?
I recruit for that often.
Yeah, so they're very expensive.
They're not cheap.
Most of my corporate career was as a CFO. So when you start your business, you need a good bookkeeper, someone who can, if you can do it yourself, if you don't understand things like double entry bookkeeping and accruals and all of that stuff, you need a good bookkeeper. Then you need a good tax preparer or tax advisor, and usually that's a CPA. And then if your business is complex and it requires a lot of strategy and thinking, you need a good part-time CFO to help you with the financial management and strategy. I don't do a lot of bookkeeping, but I do a lot of the tax planning and tax strategy because I'm a CPA. And I also do the financial management and CFO work because that's been my career path for more than 30 years.
So it's kind of like almost the CFO is out ahead of you, helping you make financial decisions for the future. The bookkeeper's in your day-to-day, documenting all the money you're bringing in, and your tax person, your CPA is kind of on the back end, making sure that after all the money's earned and all the money's spent, that it gets filed correctly. Am I kind of right on that flow of sequence? Okay. Yeah,
that's exactly the way it works. And the CFO, a lot of times the CFO coordinates with the bookkeeper and the tax guy. So the CFO is the Chief Financial Officer. He's overall responsible for all of the other issues, and the other people generally report to him or her.
I see. Interesting. Okay. So what got you into this to begin with? To me, as a crazy entrepreneur and visionary, I just break out in hives when I have to start talking about these numbers and stuff. But your passion and your vision and your ability to really understand a multitude of industries is amazing to me. How did you even get to starting up startup management?
Well, so startup management is the result of my desire as I came to the end of my corporate career to start my own consulting and management business. So in addition to startup management, I own a CPA practice in Atlanta, RVF Consulting, which is a different entity. So when I spent 30 odd years of my career in public accounting in EY. And then I went into corporate management as a controller and CFO of some pretty substantial companies. And then when I got to that point, to that sort of 50-year-old, 40-year-old stage of life, I decided, you know what, I want to be able to do my own thing. I want to be able to run my own business. And so the logical thought to me was to start my own consulting and accounting business, which is what I did. And I really enjoy it because it enables me to interact with business owners of all sizes. Mm-hmm. So startup management deals with very, very small business owners who are dealing with startup issues. And yeah, like you, and sometimes a lot smaller than you as well, Dawn. And then I have a few large clients that are doing $10 million in revenue that require more strategic sort of guidance. So it's a combination of clients and services.
Interesting. Now, when it comes to strategic financial decisions and things like that, there's kind of different stages in a business. You have that initial startup stage, and kind of take us through the different stages and when someone might be almost triggered or realize that they're in need of someone like your services. I mean, definitely in the beginning to make sure that they, got an S Corp or an LLC or the, incorporated. So that's definitely a part. But then what other stages would someone go, you know what, I might not have my finger on the pulse like I think I may?
Right. So there are three basic stages in my experience. That startup stage where you're doing the due diligence and the corporate structure, the choice of entity and so on. That's the first one. Then as the business begins to develop and grow, your objective in running your business is to do three things: to generate profit, turn profit to cash, so it's profit into cash flow, and then grow your business. And when you are focused on that, you need someone who understands those processes. And the fractional CFO, which is what I do, a fractional CFO means that you get a fraction of my time. I'm not full-time working for any client. I'm giving them hours and days based on their needs. The role of the fractional CFO is to understand the business ebbs and flows and the business direction and the business development and its numbers. And to do two things: to look back to see what has happened in the past, and then to look forward to sort of predict the future for the business, looking at both opportunities and risk. So when I'm dealing with a client that has me engaged as a CFO, a fractional CFO, I'm constantly looking at the business as it is now, and then where are we heading? And where are we heading? What are the risks that we face, that the business faces? And what are the opportunities, the financial and strategic opportunities to develop? So that's the second sort of phase. And then the third thing that I do is I work closely with the business owner to help him or her address their management, the managing of the business owner himself or herself. Because, so that I hold my clients accountable for things. So when I take on a client, I say to them, listen, the way this works best is we have discussions, we agree on things, but I'm going to hold you accountable. If you say to me that you're going to be doing this particular thing by this time, and I don't see it happening, you're going to get a call. I'm going to bring it up with you, and I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm doing it to help you impose discipline. And so those are the things that I do as a fractional CFO. What is really interesting is that we don't understand the strategic value of our numbers. Small business owners, we don't. When you go to the doctor, the first thing one of the things that the doctor does is draws your blood. And examining that blood, the doctor can tell almost everything that's going on the inside of you. It can tell you whether your cholesterol is high, whether you're whatever, all of those issues. The numbers of the business tell me the same thing. So when I see your financial statements and I understand your business model, I can tell you pretty much what's going on in your business that's not apparent on the outside and where it's heading. And so it's very important that if you have a business that's developing, or your business is a complex business, then it's important that you have someone. If you don't have the financial management skills yourself, it's important that you have someone to help you think through those issues and monitor the pulse of the business and so on. And that's what I do.
Are you ever involved with the exit of a business owner that's possibly looking to sell or something like that? I would think that would be a big trigger for you, as well as someone going, how do I get out of this? Do I sell it? Do I fold it? Or do you help business owners make those strategic decisions as well?
Yeah, so part of the journey of the business owner is not just getting in, but getting out. When you're on the aircraft, the flight attendant says the exits are here, here, and here. And when you're running a business, especially if you are a mature business owner, you're coming to that point of decision. You need to have a plan to get out of the business if that becomes necessary, if that becomes part of what your life change is going to be. And so I get involved there to advise on the strategy and on the value. It's very important that if you're selling, it's like selling a house. If you have a $1 million mansion, you don't want to go selling it for selling it for cheap. Right. So you really have to have a good valuation of your business, and you really have to have a good strategy. And I get involved with clients that are in that stage to help them think through and plan and execute the exit strategy. And a lot of times it's finding the right solution. So for some people, it means an outright sale to a third party that is not related. And then for other people, it's a matter of passing the business on to someone that has been groomed, like sometimes it's an offspring, or it's a family member, or a key employee that has been groomed to run the business. And so a lot of times it's a judgment call as to what is the better of the two options. And it's not always the best thing to pass your business on to your children if they don't have the ability, the competence, the experience, the maturity, the judgment to run that business successfully, because all of your hard work is going to just evaporate in short order. And I've seen that happen. I mean, it's a horrible thing to
over
see.
And over.
Yeah.
I've seen it as well. And it's so painful because usually the business is so healthy with legacy abilities, and it's just like, here you go, here's your silver platter. And then it's just like, wow, within 18 months, it's a
yeah, exactly. So if someone is thinking of doing that, they need to really plan that over a long period of time and to assess the recipient.
How long do you think, that kind of transition, like if they're going, you know what, I'm kind of getting close to retirement, or I'm kind of getting a little burnout, like when would someone trigger? Is it 3 years before like a potential sale, or how long?
I would say 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
If you're any shorter than that, it means that you're going to be acting hastily and you're not going to have a good plan in place. And so 3 to 5 years is a good period of time to make that decision, as well as to groom a successor if that's what you're thinking.
Right.
So yeah, 3 to 5 years.
I've been noticing a big trend in employee-owned companies happening more and more and more, because I think one thing that I think that is a result of less and less people of my generation or the generation younger having any kind of desire to take over a family business. So then employers kind of say, well, if I'm not going to sell it outright, but I've done all this grooming and I love my business, which is my people at the end of the day, how can I sell it to my business? Or what do you know about employee-owned companies and what a sale like that looks like?
Right. So the tricky part of that really is the financing of the deal. That's really the tricky part, because a lot of times if you're selling or transferring your business to a child, one of your offspring, then you're not necessarily going to hold that person. You can and you should, but you sometimes will allow them purchase terms that you may not want to offer to someone else who is a total stranger. So when you're dealing with an employee, a key employee is taking over the business from you, you really need to have a clear sense of how that business is going to be financed, and the acquisition is going to be financed. And sometimes it's a bit of the employee having to borrow money on the security of the business. And sometimes it's a bit of owner financing, where I say to the employee, listen, I'm going to give you, let's say the purchase consideration is $100,000. Pay me $50,000 in cash now, and then you're going to pay me $50,000 over the next 5 years or something like that. So structuring the acquisition deal is going to be critical.
Right. Okay. What is one thing that you see small business owners typically do exceedingly well. I know we kind of talked about, where they have pitfalls and stuff, but what's one area that you feel that people usually understand?
Most people understand the reason and the passion and the skill that they bring to the business. A lot of times that's what small business owners focus on almost
Right.
exclusively. And
Uh-huh.
so I have seen successful businesses. One of my clients, and I know he's not going to mind me telling a bit of his story, he lost his job in 2005, and
Okay.
he went around his community. He had a wife and kid to take care of, and he bought a lawnmower, and he went around the community cutting grass. And he's built that into a multi-million-dollar business because he understands two things. He understands the business of cutting grass, landscape and installation and maintenance and that sort of stuff. And he understands how to market that. And so a lot of business owners, they bring that to the business, their skill, their passion, their desire. And that's always the best place to start. Because if you're getting involved in a business and you really don't have something like that to drive you, it's not always blue skies and and all those wonderful things that you see people talk about a successful business. It's challenging, and sometimes you need to have that to help you drive forward. And that's the thing that I always look for when I'm evaluating a new startup business. What does the owner bring? We can always add financial discipline. We could always add financial management. We can add financial strategy. Those are things we can bring in. But what do you bring to the business that will make this successful? What is your passion? What is your reason? What is your skill set? What is your competence? And most startups have that going well for them. That's why they get involved in the first place.
Right. Okay. Now, a lot of people think that bigger is better, right? And so many business owners, they know why they got into the business and they know what they're doing today, and they think they know what they're going to do tomorrow. But I say, well, how big do you want to grow this? And it all the time, it's always like, well, as big as it can get. And I'm always surprised at that reaction. Is that something that you see? And when it comes to financial goal setting, what's your advice around that? I mean, being a millionaire sounds lovely and all, but more money, more problems too. So how do people know how big they want to get, and when to stop, and when it's healthy and all of that?
But so everything that we do has a price attached to it, and it's nice to have a multi-million-dollar really successful business, but that doesn't just drop out of the sky. You have to work at it, and you have to be prepared to pay the price. And I think that if one of the things you have to always ask yourself is, what is the next level for my business, and what price do I have to pay to get there? And if the next level is something that you want, and if the price is something that you were willing to pay, then you make the strategic moves to go in that direction. And there are business owners that I know who are very successful, but they've kept their businesses deliberately small because they're not prepared to pay that price. And I personally have done that. I have not grown this business to the point that I have a large staff and I have managers, and I never wanted that. I wanted to be very hands-on and personal with my clients, that I can give that personal service and advice. And that works for me. Now, if I went in the other direction, I probably would be a lot richer than I am, or probably, more money. But that's not always
At what cost? Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's not always the objective. And you have to make that decision for yourself.
Right. One question I always ask business owners is, what is the role of the company in your life? Right? Like, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your own company? Do you just want to be strategic and high level in vision, or do you want to be in the day to day, or do you love having employees and that's part of your why, or just employees would just do nothing but aggravate you? What role do you want, it to be? Because like you said, everything that you receive, that there's something that you give up or something that you invest from that.
Yeah, and so a lot of times we get sucked in, and when we look back at where we are now, when we look the road that we've walked, we didn't realize that we have come that far away from what we wanted our true position to be. So we get sucked in, and we make a little bit of money, and what we do is we use that money, we buy the nice house and we buy the nice car and all of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the reason you make money. But then you decide, well, I need a bigger house. And little by little it snowballs. Mm-hmm. And you're right. You have to decide where do I want this business to go, and where do I feel comfortable taking it. And a lot of times where we end up is not where we want to be in terms of the effort and the time and the commitment. One of the biggest challenges I know for small business owners is when you have married couples running a business together. And a lot of times as the advisor of the business, I have to try to keep the issues of the business from contaminating the relationship, the marriage relationship. Because in my business, if I have a dispute with someone or I'm upset, whatever goes on, I leave that at 4 o'clock or 5:30 or whatever. I sign off, I go home, and I have my wife, and we have a relationship. But what happens when you have your spouse and you have a disagreement on the business with your spouse and you go home? It follows you there. Yes. And if you don't have the discipline to separate the two, you're going to have trouble. So all of those considerations are things that I keep my eye on when I work with clients. I'm very concerned about the quality of life of my clients. Yeah. It's not just about making money. And sometimes I will tell a client, you know what, you need to take a step back and figure out exactly what you want to do next, because where you're heading is not good.
Do you recommend 50-50 ownership?
Yeah. It depends. So when I look at a husband and wife, you're talking about from a husband and wife perspective? Or...
I mean, probably, honestly, I would be curious of your answer in general. I've always shied away from the 50-50 just because if it's a tie, then what? You know, someone at the end of the day has to be the deal breaker without litigation or despair.
Well, so there are different structures that sort of answer that question for us. If you have a partnership with someone, by default, you're 50-50, unless the partnership is a limited partnership where one partner takes the lead and the other partners follow. But a general partnership, it's actually 50-50 or 30, it divides into the equal numbers. And you really need to have maturity and good relationship and a good sense of when I should lead and when I should follow to be able to work that. If that does not apply to the personalities and the individuals, then someone needs to own the majority, because ultimately someone needs to make the decision. And so it depends on the circumstances of the shareholders or the owners. What works for them may not work for someone else.
So if someone's starting up their business and they're making some money and they need to do some accounting roles, what's the best platform to use? I mean, there's QuickBooks, there's Peachtree, there's a good old fashioned Excel spreadsheet, just stepping into that. What do you recommend?
Right. So it's all dependent on the needs, the size and the complexity and the needs of the business. Mm-hmm. So if your business is very simple, let's say I'm a self-employed plumber. Mm-hmm. What I do is I provide plumbing services and I collect cash and I pay some bills. So you can do that on a piece of paper if it's not a very big business. You can do it in an Excel spreadsheet. You can use QuickBooks or something like that. But if your business is complex, so you have a manufacturing business, you have raw materials, work in progress, finished goods, you have inventory, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and all of that stuff, then you need something that's robust enough to be able to handle all of those types of transactions and provide you with the financial reporting. QuickBooks would be the minimum standard that I would expect a structured business or a complex business to be using. There are other more robust packages out there, and there's some that are tailor-made for specific industries. And so I look to the capabilities of the software and what they offer and what they can do to recommend to clients use this as opposed to that. But if you're simple, small business, QuickBooks is great. Excel spreadsheet works as long as you're disciplined enough to keep track of your records and do your bank reconciliations and all of that, then you should be all right. So it depends on the size and complexity of the business.
Okay, fantastic. What, in your experience, do you just wish you could shout from the rooftops to people? If you just had a microphone to talk to small business owners and be like, for the love of God, if you do anything, or if you know anything, understand this, what would that be?
I think it would be to get to know your limitations, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and where you have limitations or weaknesses, get proper help. Because it may cost you some money to do that, but the heartache, I mean, I have seen train wrecks of all sizes and descriptions in business, and it's really painful because when a business gets into difficulty, it's not just the business owner, it's his family, it's their aspirations, everything is affected by the business. And so my advice is to get good help, and also to make sure that you keep tabs on your business. So we go to the dentist every 6 months. We go to the doctor for regular checkups. We take our cars to the auto mechanic to get the oil change. But the business that pays for it all, we ignore that and we just let it run as, hoping for the best. And
right, there's still money in the bank. We should be fine.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not seeing the risk and the issues that are coming our way. And so my advice is to get good advice.
You're preaching my language, Robert. I just feel like you're just propping me up, right? I recently spoke on Hire What You Hate was kind of the title of my thing, but too many small business owners try to do everything because they're balling on a budget. Like they're like, I don't have the money to hire. And it's like, you don't have the money not to hire this and do it well, because the cost of doing it poorly, it far exceeds the cost of hiring an expert.
Yeah, and sometimes you can get experts who will do things for your reasonable prices.
Like you. I thought you were very fair on your pricing and the level of expertise that you have and the exchange of value that we get all day long. I would rather have you on my team than that.
Thank you, Dora. I appreciate that. My focus really is, so my consulting is part of my ministry. There is a ministry aspect of what I do, and I genuinely want to help people succeed. I'm at the stage of my career now where I can decide tomorrow morning, you know what, I don't really want to do this anymore. Time to go fishing and do that instead. But I'm at the stage where I want to help. I want to see small business owners, particularly Christian business owners, but not necessarily only Christian business owners. I want to see families who rely on small businesses. I want to see them thrive. I want to see them develop. I want to see them succeed. And so a lot of times I do work and I help and without considering the cost, because it's more important to get you started the right way. So it's part of my ministry, I would suppose.
Yeah. Ditto. The generational impact that you can have on families through creating a small or a healthy, strategic, aligned business. You just change so many lives. Like you said, you change the lives of the business owner, of their family, of their customers that they're creating a wonderful experience for the vendors that they support, for the community in which they pay taxes and build whatever that they're building or serving whoever they're serving. So I'm 100% there with you on that. And that's why I'm a member of the Christian Chamber of Commerce. Is I do enjoy doing business with like-minded people. Not to say that I do it exclusively, but it is a pleasure when you have those kinds of principles in common.
Yeah. So I'm also on the board of the chamber, the Christian Chamber, and I'm the treasurer. I handle all of the
that's right, you are.
Yeah. So I handle all of the finances for the chamber as well. And it's, at the end of the day, Dawn, it's about helping other people. I mean, we want to make money and we need to provide for families, but it's more than just that. It's helping other people. And I think And that's what I like about you've asked some really, really good questions. I've
It's
been
like I've done
interviewed before.
interviews before or something.
What's that?
I said it's like I've done interviews
Yeah,
before.
maybe you've done one or two before, apparently. Yeah. No, but the questions you ask are really good. I think those are the questions that a lot of business owners want to ask, but they really don't know. It's not in their minds to formulate the question the right way. So I think this is good information that you're actually drawing out of me here. You're a good question asker.
Well, thank you so much. One of my greatest honors is really rubbing shoulders with small business owners, and just over the years working with hundreds of small business owners and hearing their joyous stories and their horror stories, that kind of thing. And sadly, oftentimes the horror stories boil back down to not fully understanding where their finances stood, not seeing the cautionary tale in the numbers far before it happens, and then once it's too late and they're already in the hole, they're going, oh no, I should hire someone who understands my books. And it's like, yeah, this plane is like been on fire and going down at a fast rate. So it is just so important. And what you do is, and the level of grace and patience that you've had with myself and my team has just been extraordinary. Because there can be, and I'll be transparent here, a level of maybe shame around not fully understanding. I'm very good at earning money and being a business developer, and I'm pretty good at spending money, but then to be able to understand how I'm making it and where I'm spending it on a larger picture so I can make important decisions. I was thankful enough to know that was a level of ignorance for me, and brave enough maybe to kind of ask for help around that. And I've talked to other financial professionals, and maybe like some other professionals, they can be a little condescending and like, you should know this. If you're at this level already, like, why don't you already have this? Or you should, so thank you for running a business with humility and grace and all of those kinds of things. I've never felt embarrassed to ask you something before, which only lends me to ask more questions and get more curious and get more education, which helps me make better decisions.
Well, I'm glad that you've done that, though, and I really appreciate the opportunity to help and to work and to share with you guys. And at the end of the day, sometimes business owners feel that this is complex, and I'm not a numbers person. I didn't do well at school at math and that. But running a business, the numbers of the business is logic. It's more logic. Once you understand, once someone can explain to you what the numbers mean, you can apply logic to work the numbers to your advantage. And so part of my role is to clarify and to demystify and to make things simple so that you can see for yourself, this is the way forward. And once you are persuaded, then you're committed. So that the objective really is to get you to the point of understanding where you can say, yes, I understand this now, let's do it.
Right.
And that's the way to work.
Absolutely. So I ask all of my guests that come onto my podcast this question. So if you could tell little Robert anything, just as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, walking into his first big boy job as a controller or a CFO, and that first time you felt like, I've made it, like, what would you tell that person now that you have lots of wisdom and lessons learned and whatnot?
I suppose the two things that I would want to say is to maintain your integrity at all times, especially if you're in a corporate role. It's very important to have not just clean hands and a clear conscience, but the ability to stand up, to say what needs to be said, to do it respectfully and with humility, but to do it nevertheless when it's needed. And so part of the role of the CFO is, the saying is that the CFO is the conscience of the organization. And a lot of times the business owner or the CEO wants to drive down a path that can either harm the business or harm the people connected to the business. And it's very important, if you're playing that role of financial guide, CFO, that you have the conviction of what is right and wrong to be able to stand up and say, listen, we shouldn't be doing this.
And not just to be a yes man.
Yeah. You have to stand for principles if you're going to be a financial manager or CFO or controller. And that's what's going to guide you forward. And the other thing is really to own up to your mistakes, to learn from them and to own up to them when necessary. And it's all, I am constantly learning. I'm still learning. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years and I learn something, new almost every day, something I didn't know. Today, somebody asked me about W8 bends and all of that. So I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen that for 10 years.
Yeah, I'm in the world of HR and I haven't seen that, because I do, like you, I do focus on small business. So international hiring isn't something that I'm well versed in. So you gave great advice. I was so thankful for that. And it's just such a blessing to have you a part of the Simply the Best team, guiding us and teaching us and helping us make those important strategic decisions. And I give you full permission if you ever need to tell me the what's what to put me in my place and hold my integrity.
Yeah, I
if I
will.
ever lose sight, go get the sheet, the last one little lost sheet, but that'll probably be me about to teeter off the cliff or something.
But I promise I will do so tactfully, gently, but firmly. That's the approach I take. And I really appreciate working for business owners like you, Dawn, that really want to do things the right way. I have actually turned down clients before because in the conversation with them, I see them pushing the envelope past, what is right. And and I'm not going to do that. I only want to work with clients who want to make money and succeed, but to do so with integrity and in compliance with the rules and the law and the tax code and so on. So I appreciate you and Lori and the way you guys, conduct yourself and questions you ask, and I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. If you want to get more of Robert's information on his website or his contact info, it's going to be in the description below. If you are a small business owner and you just really don't feel like you have your finger on the pulse of your business and you need help making strategic business decisions based on your numbers, I highly recommend giving Robert a call. He's been a blessing to our company and the Christian Chamber and beyond. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for spending time with us today. If you want more HR stories and resources, go to simplythebest.com to join our newsletter. That's SIPLEY. Until next time, stay happy.